Welcome into the 500 Sprintcast. As the season winds down, we've got some great interviews, some breaking news on this on this week's edition of the podcast, and an Ashton Smyth who can't figure out technology. All that and more coming up on this episode as we welcome her in on the phone this week. Ashton Smyth, welcome to the 500 Sprintcast.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah, technology is not my friend. You think me being 21 years old, working in television as my full-time job, I would be better at this technology thing, but I'm really not. Zoom was not my friend today. So yeah, phone call had to work, unfortunately.
Yeah, this week's episode unofficially brought to you by the Zoom help desk. Let's get into what we've got going on. The USSA Kenyon Midget series wrapped up their season since our last episode, and we'll talk with Dameron Taylor coming up. He captures his fourth USSA championship. And Ashton, we talked to him. We've already talked to him just to let you behind the curtain a little bit about that championship. But what a season he had. There were a couple of races. It's funny, he finished seventh at Berlin and, hit the panic button. Dameron's not in the top five, not in the podium. And then obviously the race at Paragon. But other than that, an absolutely lights out season for him to go and get his fourth championship.
Yeah, 5 wins on the season. Like you said, a few down moments that we were like, all right, what's going on with Dameron Taylor? But he was able to extend that points lead so much. And just by being consistent, I mean, that was the big thing. And that's what wins championships. But as a whole, I mean, wow, what a season it was. We saw a lot of new faces on the podium, a lot of new faces in victory lane, a lot of new faces to the tour as well. I think it's definitely going to be one that's going to be remembered for a while. And I expect to see a lot of these guys for years to come, whether it be continuing to follow the Kenyon Midget series or jumping up to a sprint car or whatever. But there's a lot of talent within the Kenyon Midget series this year, and super cool for Dameron to continue to expand his family and win another championship.
Now we'll talk with him coming up in just a little bit. Evan Hammond, Isaac Johnson round out the podium for the point standings. How about Andrew Wall and Clayton Bohannon, though, Ashton? A couple of Rookie of the Years. When we talked with Andrew a couple of weeks ago, it was like the job is not done. You still have some work to do, and he admitted that he holds on to get the Rookie of the Year title and fourth in the overall standings.
Yeah, it was cool to see both of those rookies in the top 5. I mean, that's not something you typically see, especially with the amount of talent that we have within the Kenyon Midget series, and Clayton running some legend car stuff as well. Evan making his way up through karts, or excuse me, Isaac making his way up through karts. And yeah, like Isaac said a few weeks ago, I mean, man, it's not wrapped up, and it came down to those final few races, and he performed and was able to take home the Rookie of the Year honors. So excited to see what he has in the next few years for us.
Winners this year, by the way, just to put a cap on the USSA Kenyon Midget Series, Dameron Taylor goes out of the gate, gets the first two. Isaac Johnson grabs back-to-back wins at Indianapolis at the Speedrome and at Paragon. Then Dameron Taylor back in victory lane. Ayrton Hoke goes to victory lane. We talked with him back in July. Then Landon Brown, Dameron Taylor back-to-back again. And then Landon Brown grabs another one. Finally, in August, Ashton's guy, Evan Hammond, who you'd been waiting on. You'd said, this guy has to get a win. It's going to happen. He does it. Landon Brown, and then Kyle Sheard actually wins the finale at Anderson last week. So, Dameron Taylor had a really good year, but outside of Dameron going to victory lane, if he couldn't get it done, Ashton, it was kind of a crapshoot who was going to go to victory lane, a really wide spread this year.
Yeah, for sure. And 2 moments that, when you're running through those lists that stick out to me, obviously Evan Hammond getting his first win. I talk about it every single week. Kid's got talent, and, glad to see him in victory lane. And then Kyle Sheard as well. He is, kind of one of those drivers that really surprised me this year, and what him and Jeff Hill have built over there. And I remember last year in the 2024 season, Andrew had a pretty scary wreck at Anderson, and I remember those emotions of that moment, and talking to Andrew after, Kyle after that. And so for him to pick up a win at Anderson was huge. And I know, he's going to continue to build that program that he has over there with Jeff Hill and that whole team. And good for him to end up in victory lane. He's one of those drivers that's not afraid to take those risks, and the risk paid off for him, and he got it done.
All right, let's move on to the 500 Sprint Car Tour. Last race of the season coming up on Saturday, October 18th at Lucas Oil, Indianapolis Raceway Park. It is Halloween Fest, and things technically kick off on Friday for optional practice with the 500 Sprint Car Tour. National Midgets and the Focus All-Star Midgets will be in action on that weekend, Ashton. And here's the skinny. The points championship is not wrapped up for the 500 Sprint Car Tour.
Yeah, mathematically, three drivers are still in this battle. Dakota Armstrong currently leads it, 1547 points. About, if I can do math correctly here, 36 points behind him is Cody Swanson, and then a little under 100 points behind them is Tyler Rohrig in third, 1455 points. And let's break down the points for a second here with the 500 Sprint Car Tour. The max amount of points that you can earn at any event is 220. There's qualifying points awarded to the top five, 10 points for the fastest qualifier, 8, 6, 5, 4, and down through the top five. And then 5 points if you lead a lap, 5 points if you lead the most laps. And then the driver that finishes first receives 200 points, and it steps backwards by 5 points of position. So say Cody Swanson goes out there, sets a fast lap, and keep in mind, this is Cody Swanson at IRP, goes out there, sets a fast lap, that's a few extra points in his pocket. Leads a whole bunch of laps, leads all of the laps of the race, that's an extra 10 points there. That's an extra 20 points, depending on where Dakota Armstrong finishes. Cody Swanson could take away this championship, but I know Dakota Armstrong is really, really hungry for it. He's also one of those drivers that's historically very good at IRP, and Tyler Rohrig as well, another driver that's historically very good at IRP. But IRP isn't always too kind to drivers. It's a big, really fast, really demanding racetrack, really demanding on equipment. So who's to say that, if something isn't 120% buttoned up, that if, one mistake can cost any of these drivers the championship. So it'll be really interesting to see who gets it done at the end of this.
Yeah, let's just remember, too, last year, Dakota Armstrong finished runner-up at Lucas Oil IRP. The year before that, 18th. So it's kind of a flip of the coin. You never, like you said, they may be good at the racetrack, but the racetrack might not be good to them. And if Dakota doesn't have a good qualifying effort, all of a sudden, and Cody, sets fast time, it's down to 26 points. And now you're talking about the difference between leading the most laps and leading a lap, which would give you those bonus points, and where you finish in the race. This is going to be, listen, I'm glad that I don't have to have the calculator out on Saturday to figure out who's going to win this championship, because it could come right down to the very end. Now, let's talk about the field that's expected on Saturday at IRP, Ashton. This is the other caveat to this deal. Dakota and Cody are going to have to race amongst 22 other drivers that would love to get a 500 Sprint Car Tour win at IRP.
Yeah, and many of them have wins with the series as well, and a lot of big names. Jake Traynor back in the field at Halloween Fest at IRP this weekend, hot off of a second little 500 earlier this year. Anthony Nocella, a modified household name up in the Northeast, comes out and runs sprint cars every once in a while. We see him at the little 500, and now he's tackling IRP. Taylor Ferns has wins with the series, and she's always so dominant. We've seen podium runs out of her this year. We've seen a lot out of Taylor Ferns, and she'll be back. Bobby Santos as well, after missing the last race due to some other conflicts. And then Kyle O'Gara and Donnie Adams return after engine issues are finally resolved for both of those drivers. Just a few names in this 24 car field. And Zach, something else to think about that's going to throw a lot of these drivers for a loop. Not only are every single driver in the field going to have to focus on a sprint car, but a majority of the field is running double, triple, even 4 cars that night, possibly, with, midgets running and other series running at IRP. That's going to throw a big wrench into it as well. It's also going to come down to physicality. If you can just, handle running all of that and be able to focus on the sprint car, I think is something that's going to be interesting going into the final show here at IRP.
Yeah, it'll be a toss-up. Who has the advantage? The person that's running double or triple duty, or the person that's focusing on one car? Who has the chance to go to victory lane? Congratulations going out this week on our show to Brady Allen, the driver out of Taylorsville, North Carolina. Ashton wrapped up the TTI Machine Rookie of the Year honors for 2025. They debuted a new car at Salem, and they feel as competitive as ever. The finishes, they say, obviously have not been as good as the car has been. That's their words, and so they feel very confident heading into this final race of the year. And you know what? When the business is taken care of, Ashton, you can kind of relax a little bit and go after a win. Brady Allen might be one to watch next Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been super cool to see the growth that this third gen motorsports team has had this year with Brady Allen. Obviously, we talked to him a few weeks ago or on the show, and the struggles that he had in 2024 and coming back in 2025 with the new car at Salem. And he's really, improving as a driver, continuing to improve those results each and every single time he hits the racetrack. Kind of having to relearn pavement racing after he, went and ran dirt for a while and had such great success on dirt. And he's not from that area where open wheel racing is, the thing. He's from North Carolina, and I can tell you there's not much open wheel racing here. So to see Brady Allen get it done is super cool. And what he's going to continue to do, there's still one more race left, see what he can do there and see what he has for the future.
Coming up on the program, we talk to Dameron Taylor about his championship. Michael Lewis is on the program. We sit down with him and chat about his history in racing. And be sure to stay tuned to the very end of the program. We've got breaking news coming up at the very end of this program. But do want to first of all say thank you to Redline Ace for their support this season, the motorsports-driven design agency working with series teams and drivers from all aspects of racing. Owner-creative Ben Porter has worked on projects from Formula One to local kart racers and wants to inject that experience into every client that he works with. In a sport that separates competitors, wins, and sponsorships, it's that time of year, by the way, by razor-thin margins, why not hire Redline Ace to boost your brand before the competition does? Time to get into our first featured interview of the night, and it is our pleasure to welcome in a driver with a lot of history in open wheel racing. Now makes his home in Carmel, Indiana. Michael Lewis, welcome into the 500 Sprintcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
You look like you're living and enjoying the retirement life right now. I got to tell you, you're lounging outside. You got the beautiful sunset behind you. Things are great. It looks like things are great anyhow. Not retired though. You've been messing around with the race cars a little bit this year. But your background is so extensive. I looked up your profile on the Third Turn, a resource that I love, and there is so much that you have done in auto racing. I guess let's start all the way back at the very beginning, Michael. What got you into this sport?
So in the mid 80s, my dad took me to a quarter midget track, and his background was go-karting. Him and Mark Dismore were good friends, and they grew up together, and go-karting wasn't allowed by my mother, so we went quarter midget racing. 6 or 7 back when that started.
Wow.
Why no go-karts?
Yeah. What was the nix on the go-karts was Ashton's question.
My dad got hurt at IRP, and just the risk factor, she didn't want any part of it. He brought one home one night and took it back the same night.
She said, absolutely not.
Yeah,
You had
right.
your chance. There's no way. So you got right into the open wheel thing with quarter midgets. Was that always the trajectory? Was that always the path that you and your family felt like you were going to take? Or, I mean, I know that your profile shows that you did take some, stock car routes and try some things, but really open wheel heavy in your career.
Yeah, I mean, I love the open wheel. My goal was ultimately to race professionally, and that the open wheel led me to a couple races in NASCAR, but ultimately open wheels where I spent most of my time between midgets, sprint cars, silver crown cars.
You touched on the NASCAR career a little bit, and walk me through your career as a whole, starting in quarter midgets, then moving up, and how did those doors come knocking for the few NASCAR races that you were able to run?
So yeah, started racing quarter midgets. My dad owned the cars, and we when I was 16, we bought a midget, or my dad bought a midget, and we started at the Speedrome, and that slowly worked into running USAC National Series. Won a race with my dad's car, and then I got a call from Bob East that a guy I knew was looking for a driver. Bill and Mike Reed out of California. So that was my first ride away from my parents, and then it snowballed from there. We had just won Turkey Night 2002, and getting ready for Copper World, I get a call that Phil was going to sell the car, and I man, that's rough timing, but so I found out who was going to buy it. Western Speed was going to buy the car, so I reached out to them, said, "Hey, let me run this car at Phoenix." And it was Larry Triguero I was talking to, and he's like, "Man, we got the car all apart. We don't have time to get it together." I said, "Look, I built the car. We can get together. Let's go there and win that race." Well, we couldn't put the deal together, and I found another ride for Copper World. Ended up crashing out of the lead, and walking out of the care center, I was met by Rick Gerhart and Larry Triguero. They wanted to hire me to run for Western Speed. And then we had a really good year in 2003, and Rick knew Bill McAnally, which Bill McAnally was friends with Richard Childress. And with handshake and an introduction on pit road at Sonoma, I had a bush ride within 5 minutes.
Back in the day when the handshake deal would work, right?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
That is awesome. You talked about your open wheel stuff in the mid 2000s with USAC, early 2000s into mid 2000s. What a run. You did some stuff, right, that a lot of people would love to be able to do. Unofficial stats, 3 USAC Silver Crown Series wins, national sprint car wins totaled at 4 right now is what I see. National sprint car results, 8 total national USAC sprint car result wins. And also a Turkey Night Grand Prix win, which is pretty awesome. That's a pretty big midget race for the USAC series. What was it about the late '90s into the early to mid 2000s that clicked with you and USAC?
All the races I ran with my dad, we ran a bunch of midget races. And then once I got rides, once I kind of found my groove, we had a lot of fun, won some races, and we're pretty competitive.
I wanted to talk back to that first ride outside of your dad's that you did, and being Bob East of that. Did you kind of know the magnitude that Bob had in the industry, and how did you guys get linked up? Was it strictly from him, seeing your talent on track?
So we met Bob actually at the quarter midgets. He was racing with his son Bobby, and Bob was super busy working with his business and with Steve Lewis. So we ended up taking Bobby quarter midget racing. And actually the last quarter midget I had was built by Bob. So back before I was running midgets, I was going to the track with Bob, working on the 9 cars, whether it be the midgets or the Jim Getz Silver Crown car. So I spent a lot of time with Bob. I worked for him for a while. To this day, we still talk.
Taking a step back in the early 2000s from racing, what was that decision like? What kind of went into that process of saying, okay, let's take a step back?
When I stopped racing, I kind of just got burnt out. I had a rough year, and I just got burnt out. And come the end of 2006, I was done. Looking back, I wish that I would have kept going and it didn't end that way, but can't take back what happened.
Were there any world events or anything going on in the, not I guess world events, but anything happening that you feel like you look back and go, those are just some hurdles that we had to overcome that kind of led to the burnout?
Just a rough year.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the roughest year I ever had in racing. I think it was probably the only year that I didn't win a race. I had a couple close ones, had some good runs, but it's just a rough year.
Well, let's look at some brighter times. You messed around and got back behind the wheel of a race car this year. Was this the first time that you had raced since you hung it up back in 06?
Yeah, this is the first. I mean, I've run some go-kart races, but this is the first midget type car that I've raced since Turkey Night 06.
Wow. So let's talk about this. First of all, this initiative that has been going on at IRP. That was your opportunity to get back behind the wheel, right? It was back in June when you took part in that?
Yeah, it was a race. Casey Kohler at IRP has done tremendous. The support he's given open wheel racing and pavement is tremendous. And they were putting a race on to honor Irish from Hoosier. And I was talking to my buddy Ryan Newman at Anderson. He said he was running a midget. So I started asking him about it, and dude, I want to do that. And 5 minutes later, I ran into Bobby Seymour and said, "Hey, I want to run that." He said, "You're in." So it actually came about pretty quick. Then the next step was to sell it to my wife that it was an
Ah,
race.
how challenging was that?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, she knew what was going to happen. I mean, in all honesty, it was an exhibition race, but when we get behind the wheel, we're racers and
It doesn't matter.
it's full tilt.
Yeah.
What was that like for the first time getting back into a car after, being out of it for 15 plus years?
So I had tested some cars here and there. Like I ran a sprint car at Anderson 20 laps or so 4 or 5 years ago, but I'd never raced. And on the green flag of that race, it came back instantly. It
Yeah.
was it was I was shocked at how quick it came back.
Was there any emotions for you? I mean, you seem like a pretty level-headed guy, straightforward guy, but even going out for practice or qualifying, I mean, so many years without having turned a competitive lap, right? Testing and practice is one thing, but unloading the car and getting suited up and yeah, it's an exhibition race, but you still want to you still want to be competitive. Were there any nerves or emotional moments, right? Getting out there for practice or qualifying?
I mean, yeah, you're racing against Tony Stewart, Ryan Newman, Sammy Swindell, Levi Jones. Um, those are legends of the sport, right? And I'm competing against them. So there was nerves, and then once the race happened, the emotions kicked in. With my family, my wife and kids being there, that was pretty awesome.
All right. Here's the fun part, listeners and those viewing back at home. We're gonna make some history coming up here with you, Michael. You are going to do something that you haven't done, as Ashton kind of alluded to. In quick math says 19 years it's been since you've been behind the wheel of an open wheel sprint car. Is that right?
That's correct.
We're gonna break that streak here coming up on IRP weekend with the 500 Sprint Car Tour. Talk about what's going on.
Yeah, I was talking to Bob East, and I said, hey, because back in the day, I used to bug him all the time. I want to run your sprint car. He's like, you don't want to run that thing. It's old. It's not very fast. I said, Bob, I've chased that car forever. Chasing Bobby. I said, I want to drive that car. So I reminded him of that. And one thing led to another. And between him and Terry Klatt, we're going racing. So I'm pumped.
IRP, you've already got laps there in the midget, and then I'll yield back to Ashton. How much of that can you, I mean, just right, getting the muscle memory back in June behind the wheel of a midget, it's a lot different, obviously, with a sprint car, a lot more power, a lot more Hoosier Racing tire to deal with. But how do you feel? I mean, how do you feel about your ability and what you can accomplish on October 17th?
The first thing comes to mind is just the physical aspect. I'm going to run all three divisions, so I'm going to be super busy. Um, the good thing is I work out now, which back in the day when I raced, I didn't. So I'm pretty confident. Competitive wise, we're going there for one reason, and that's to win.
All right.
But I know
There you go. That's what we like to hear.
it's not going to be easy. You got Dakota Armstrong, Cody Swanson, Bobby Santos, Tyler Rohrig, Jake Trainer. These guys they're not pushovers, right? They're the best there is, and I'm going there for one reason.
Real quick, Ashton, I need to correct something. Saturday, October 18th will be when Michael's getting back behind the wheel that for the 500 Sprint Car Tour finale at Lucas Oil IRP, Ashton.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be an exciting one. We have a full field. And something that, really sparked my brain is not only are you returning after, so many years, but you're really coming out guns ablaze. I mean, anyone who follows sprint cars knows the names Terry Klatt and Bob East. How much more confident does that make you feel moving into the weekend, knowing that you have, such a good support system and such good relationships with them?
When I raced, I did a lot of the work on my own cars, and it wasn't very often I could show up to the track and just drive. And this is one of those opportunities to where that's my job, is to drive the car. I mean, the record speaks for itself. Bobby was amazing in that sprint car. If I'm half as good as him, we should do just fine.
You said it, you're running all three divisions. That's not an easy task for anybody. What are your expectations? You said you're showing up to win. are we expecting you in victory lane after the end of all three features?
I mean, that's the only reason we go, right? It's is to win. Like I said, I'm racing with people that are legends out there. It's not going to be easy, but I'm not going there with my head down. I'm going there thinking I'm going to beat them.
Ashton mentioned Bob East, and you mentioned that you'd followed that car and tried to beat it for a long time. I have a note here that says you actually used to be closer to those Beast chassis than some people might know.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a ton of time in their shop, whether it was working for Bob or working helping Kelly Drake all hours of the night building cars, getting ready for Copper World. I love that aspect. I love working on them. I love building them. Now
How much have they changed since the years that you were in the shop?
they haven't.
Okay.
This I have a Silver Crown car in my shop that Ryan Newman drives. It's from early 2000s, maybe the late 90s, and it's still competitive.
Are you a hands-on guy right now? Will you want to help Terry and Bob prepare this car?
I will, but all I'm allowed to do is make sure the seat's good.
Okay.
So I'm tomorrow to get the seat right and make sure everything fits, and that's all Bob's letting me do, which is fine. It'll be fun just to drive.
That's awesome. Ashton, any closing thoughts or questions for Michael before we get him out of here?
No, I think I'm good. I'm excited to see this happen. That's for sure.
Michael, for Saturday, October 18th at Lucas Oil IRP, you're going to get back behind the wheel of one of these sprint cars. You're running triple duty that day. Good luck to you, and thank you for helping us break this announcement here on the 500 Sprintcast. Excited to see what you can do, man. You're going out for blood. You're looking for wins. That's exciting. That's not how a lot of guys return from retirement. You know, oh, we're going to start slow. We're going to top 10, top 5. We'll be all right with that. Not for Michael Lewis.
End of the day, what happens happens, but our goal is to win, and we'll see what happens. I appreciate you having me on.
All right, Michael. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Time for our second interview of the night, and it's our pleasure to welcome in the now crowned 2025 Kenyon Midget Series champion. Dameron Taylor is back on the program. Dameron, welcome.
Hello.
What a couple of weeks here for you, and really what a couple of days. You pick up another Kenyon Midget Series championship. You have another child over the last 24, 48 hours. Man, you got to be living high on life right now and really low on sleep, I imagine.
Well, yeah, definitely low on sleep. Everything's kind of been happening back to back. As far as the sleep, that has not been happening. uh, she she did not sleep very well last night. Now she's sleeping all day today at the time that we can't sleep because we have all the other kids.
Oh my goodness, man. Well, you'll settle in. As you said, you got other kids. You know what this is about. All right, let's get into that race car stuff. That's what we're here for. The family's awesome. We love family. That's fantastic. We love championships too, man. And when we talked to you earlier this season, I remember I felt like this is Dameron's championship to lose, and you just kind of had to tread water really throughout the season to get it done. But man, I remember there in what, July, middle of July, beginning of July, you had that rough run at Paragon, and then I started to wonder. I was like, man, this thing might slip away from him. Talk about how you kind of recapped your season and what it took to hold on to this championship.
Yeah, we knew Paragon could potentially be rough. When we got to Paragon after practice and everything, we actually felt like we was going to have a good run there, which we have yet to have a good run there. And start of the race, the leader in second place touched just a little bit going to the corner right before I kicked my car sideways. And when they did that, I just muscle memory reacted and got the car two sideways, and my left front hit a marker tire. And those marker tires there do not move.
Yeah.
So that kind of ended the night there. But we knew as long as we stayed consistent throughout the rest of the year, that's the key to winning these championships is just consistent up front finishes. And as long as I can always stick it on the podium every night, then that's the most important thing to do.
Was there a mental reset that you had to do leaving Paragon when you have such a tough event like that? Was there you look at yourself in the mirror, or you're talking to whoever and saying, all right, now we just got to get back to doing what we do the rest of the year.
Yeah, before the night was even over, before we loaded the car, it was just one of those swallow the bad pill, put it in the suitcase, and let the suitcase get lost, and just move on from it, and don't even let that affect the rest of the years. We knew going into it with the tracks that we run at and the tracks that we're good at, we could see at least a couple more wins out of the year coming to us. And as long as we could get the rest of the ones we didn't think we could win, as long as we could get in the top podium spot and not have a bad race, not put ourselves in a bad position to have a bad race, as long as we're finishing all of them, that's about all you can do is just make sure that you finish all of them and you're rolling the car back in the trailer.
I wanted to go back to the beginning of the season because you really came out guns a-blazing. Obviously, anyone who knows the Kenyon Midget Series knows your name. Multi-time champion, now adding another one to that list and winning the first two features and starting the season so strong. When was that moment that was like, okay, you know, we're possibly going to win another championship here?
Yeah, I mean, everything with us kind of goes race by race. We never really know exactly what we're going to do the following year. There's a lot of stuff logistics wise that we've got to get taken care of. So we really don't know everything that we're going to do until the season kind of starts. The first two races, it seems like every Kenyon series that I start, I'm always in the top 5 somewhere, whether I win or have a decent finish. It seems like I can always have a decent year if I want to run every race. That's the good thing about the series too, is it's not just a feeder series itself, but it's a really good baseline series for anybody that wants to be able to really mine into their craft of learning how to be consistent and be very stable in a race car. It's a very good series to do that in. It's a very good place to really basically hone in on your craft. And just because the atmosphere that it is, it's very family oriented. So everybody really gets along with everybody. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, as long as the first few races go good and we don't have any plans to do anything else, if we feel like sticking it out or some other guys talk us into doing it, then we'll end up just sticking it out and doing the rest of the season. But like I said, a lot of it all comes beginning of the season decision if we're going to or not run the whole season.
You keep mentioning consistency and honing your craft and perfecting that. Do you feel like the notebook that you've been able to build over your tenure with the Kenyon Midget Series has been able to contribute to that consistency? And do you feel like, you know, you've really got this thing figured out by now?
Yeah, definitely. And to add on to that, there's been a few times where I've went out east to run with the national midgets, back with Jessica Bean. And there's been a here recently with the Ford Focus series that's been running at IRP. I've went out to Grundy County, and a lot of my success with doing the national midget and the Focus midget is due to the fact of me running the Kenyon series. And a lot of people, actually, if you ask a lot of sprint car guys in the 500 sprint car tour and stuff, some of them will say that running a Kenyon midget can sometimes be harder than some other vehicles to drive just because in the Kenyon series, we don't have power steering. So, like, for example, we have a 75 lap race at Anderson. Some of them don't really seem to see how we're able to run that many laps and not get worn out. I know I've had a conversation with a few of them that said they'd rather run a sprint car at a 100 lap race than our midget for 75. And to add on to that, it's kind of back with what I was saying, that the more that you run a Kenyon car with the engine being a smaller engine, that you really have to hone that craft to be consistent. And with doing so, it really gives you a better fine line of trying to feel how the car acts, pay attention to your entry, your apex, your exit, and with doing that, it helps you improve your driving ability. So it makes it easier for you to go off and do these other racing ventures.
This has really been a dominant career for you in the Kenyon Midget Series. 121 starts. You have been to victory lane just shy of 30% of the time that you unload a race car with the series. 4th championship. And the other thing I think is unique, and I almost feel like this season should have a highlighter mark through it, is you've only got one season where you never went to victory lane with the Kenyon Midget Series, but that was 2020 when you only ran 3 races of the 9 that were scheduled. So this series has been really, really good to you. 4th championship, as I mentioned. Does one of them stand out more than the other? You know, you go all the way back to 2016 and 2017, that's back to back. Then you get your 3rd in 2022, and now this one in 2025. Is there one that sticks out more in your mind?
Um, Every time I think about running the car, I really go back to 2017. I don't really remember which seasons I've had how many wins, but we always go back to
2017 was 8. So yeah, that was a
yeah.
good one.
But we always go back to 2017, and I guess that right there would be the reason why.
Yeah.
But that was a very good year, and like you said, 30% plus. Sometimes I joke with my dad that it seems like sometimes I have more second place finishes than I probably do wins. It seems like I've had a lot of either second or third place finishes and been right there, been able to pick at the lead and the car go away. Back in the day, we had some longer races, so tire wear was a little bit different. Whereas today, we kind of driving the cars as hard as we possibly can, and which is really good. There's a lot of people this season, including last season, that's really stepped up the game and made it a lot more of a challenging atmosphere. Evan Hammond and then everybody at Jeff Hill's team has really stepped it up. And Brad Hayes has a couple guys that comes out every once in a while that really be right there. But that's what the series is about. It's about getting new people in, getting them comfortable, getting them consistent, and then getting them moved on to the next best thing if that's where they want to go, or stick around and keep honing on their craft.
Yeah, just to finish the stat line of those career starts, according to the thirdturn.com, 92 fives, which is 76% of your starts, and 110 top tens, which is 90, we'll call it 91% of your starts have been top 10 finishes. And I'm glad you brought up your fellow competitors because I wanted to ask you about that. Evan Hammond, third in the championship standings, Isaac Johnson, second, Andrew Wall, rookie of the year contender, finishes fourth, another rookie of the year contender, Clayton Bohannon, fifth in the championship standings, and that, or I should say, not finishes. That's where they were running prior to things being done. That hasn't been updated yet. What about that next class that's coming in? You've been doing this now. This is your 10th season with the Kenyon Midget series. What about these young guys that are coming in trying to make a name for themselves?
Yeah, definitely. I know Jeff Hill's got somebody that's coming in. I believe he's coming from go karts. I think he knows the Fox family. Um, he looked to do pretty decent. I saw some videos and was following Jeff, releasing some live videos of him out on the track, and he really picked it up fairly quick. And I believe Brad has one or two new people that's coming in for him. So this new class that's coming in, that's kind of the reason that I've stuck around. I know some people's mentioned it being a feeder series. Some people's mentioned that I should have moved on from it. But in all reality, any race car is a race car. Everything that's classified as a race car, in my opinion, takes some sort of talent to be able to do, to be able to compete at it competitively for throughout the year. So I don't see it that way. I see it more of I've been doing it as long as I've been doing it. And now that I'm in the position that I'm in now, I see it more of a mentor thing. I'd rather be there, be around, not doing it just because I can have fun and do good at it, but more or less that I can help those others that are moving into the series. And that's really what I look forward to every year. The first 2, 3 races, I'll always have a parent or a driver come up to me and say, "You're the guy that we've been told to come talk to be able to learn and figure this out and figure that out." And to me, that means a lot. And if I wasn't there doing that, then they could still learn. And I'm sure they could still learn just as quick without me there. But to me, that means a lot that I'm in the position that they see me as some sort of a mentor, the same as I did Mel Kenyon when I went down did my first test at the speed room. So
I'm glad that you mentioned being a mentor because that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. Every single time we've brought someone on to this podcast from the Kenyon Midget series, they've mentioned your name and how historic of runs you have and how, you've sort of built this name for yourself and over the past few years. What does that transition to, being a mentor been like for you? And how much pride does it give you to see these guys that, you helped the first 2 times move on to make such great careers, whether it be in the Kenyon Midget series or sprint cars or whatever?
Yeah, just to add on to everything that I've already said, with the Kenyon series, I think the biggest thing that I try to help these drivers with is it seems like the thing that I pick on the most is helping drivers learn how to not necessarily overdrive the car, but to put the car right at its limits and then try to push it just a hair farther than that. And once you can get yourself to get to that point, then you really know that you've taken control of the car and the car is no longer in control of you. You're now in control of the car. And once you can get to that point, then I feel like you've really stepped over to where you need to be, and you're ready to move on to anything you want to move on to at that point. I always tell a lot of these guys, especially since Brad's taken over, a lot of these guys coming in are used to running go karts. I don't have a whole lot of experience running the carts they're running. I've just kind of went to SIK and Fast Times, which I know is not comparable to what they're in. But um, as far as being in that kind of a cart and running the Kenyon car, I've ran the Kenyon car as long as I've ran it, that I can run the car as hard as I want to and put it wherever I want to, and I kind of relate that to being no different than a go kart. I know what they run. You may try to overdrive it and spin out. I'm not sure. I don't really have much experience in a cart like that, but it seems like a lot of these drivers really come in, and within a year they're really kind of pushing the limits of where they need to be. I know we was in Michigan. I think at Owasso, Andrew Wall was right up there competing, and it was great to see. I mean, he's another driver that's really improved a lot this year. But yeah, like we've been talking about, it's really good to be on the mentoring side at this point, and I like to keep coming back, especially now because we're going to newer tracks. So it's really equal playing field. I mean, I've got the experience in the car, but a lot of these guys this year have been with us for 2 to 3 years. So when we go to a new racetrack, we're all on the same playing field at that point.
I guess
Looking back at your 20,
go ahead, Ashton. Nope, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Looking back on your 2025 season, is there one moment, one race that sticks out to you as being the most memorable or a special moment in your head that you'll remember about this season?
I mean, it was nice coming out to the first race at Sportsdrome, being able to capture that win. It seems like that track's kind of a hit and a miss sometimes when I go there, like the Speedrome is. So it was nice to be able to show up and the car be where we needed it to be. Um, a lot of the new tracks that we went to is really cool. I really do like that we went to Owasso. That facility was extremely nice up there. But I'd say racing wise, what I was more proud with was these last races that we had at Anderson, just because one, the track staff that's there, and Jared and Rick and all the stuff that they do there, 500 Sprint Car Tour, everything Brad does with the Kenyon series, just I feel like that's home in a sort of sense. But as far as the races went, I kind of think back to that being the best of all year, just because my mindset with most of the races throughout this year was win if I can, but if I can't, finish the race to where we can load the car up. So once we got the first feature done at Anderson, since we had a double feature, come the second feature, I was able to go out and not necessarily make the smartest of moves, but with being able to know that I know how to handle the car, it was nice to be able to go out and kind of make those crazy moves that the fans like to come and see. So the second feature at Anderson, our last race, I think would be the most memorable of this year, just because I knew that I could really drive the car at its limits, make crazy moves that excites the fans, and still come out in one piece and still win the championship.
Well, that's what you've done. Dameron Taylor, the 2025 champion, 232 points over Evan Hammond, just to kind of put an exclamation mark on how good of a season you did have this year. What wraps up the 2025 season for you? Obviously, you just had a child. You talked about the Focus Midget stuff. Indoor season is right around the corner as well. Do you have anything else left in the tank before we get back to the spring?
We will be at IRP October 18th in the Focus car, and then come after that, I won't know until about January.
Okay.
And we do have a wing sprint car. We do have a regular sprint car for the 500 Sprint Car Tour. We got the Focus car. We got the Kenyon car. Um, just a lot of it boils down to our logistics. If we can get all that stuff straightened out, there's a lot of stuff that I do want to do. I've had people interested in using me as a mentor, or me renting out a car and kind of hovering around the Kenyon series to help keep people moving up. But a lot of that just kind of the wait and see what happens kind of a thing. But the more I know, the more I'll post on social media, and then we'll kind of go from there on it.
4 or 5 race car options, kids at home, you own your own business. Is there anything you don't do, Dameron Taylor?
Well, not that I can think of.
I
Definitely
got
blessed
one.
to be in the position I'm in.
Sleep. You don't sleep. That is what
Yeah.
we've got. Dameron, man, congratulations on a great season. Congratulations on your fourth championship, and we'll let you go. Get back to that family.
All right. Thank you guys. If you IRP, I'll see you out there.
Well, thank you to Dameron and, of course, Michael for being on the program. And there was our first bit of breaking news during the interviews, Ashton. Michael is going to come back and run a sprint car. 19 years, over 19 years since he's been behind the wheel of a sprint car. Obviously, he's got the experience from IRP earlier this year, but this is exciting stuff going into Saturday, October 18th at IRP.
Yeah, it was super cool to see him working with Bob East and Terry Cloud as well. You know, I mentioned it during the interviews earlier on, how iconic of a duo that is, and to have a driver as iconic as Michael Lewis behind the wheel of it is going to be super cool to see. And his expectations too, he's going to come out guns a-blazing. He expects to win and he expects nothing less, which is a great mindset to have as a driver, and he definitely has the experience to get it done. So throw that into the championship battle wrench as well. You know, we'll see what Michael Lewis does in his return to a sprint car.
Yeah, those guys like Michael and Brady who have nothing to lose, right? The other guys as well that maybe already locked into their positions in the championship standings. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch next Saturday, plus racing around Dakota and Cody in the process. All right, we teased some breaking news, potential breaking news. And really, this is more of a tease again, Ashton, but the 500 Sprint Car Tour excited to let us tease this on our podcast here tonight.
Yes, some very exciting news coming Friday, October 17th, an entitlement sponsorship announcement for the 500 Sprint Car Tour. It's going to be a multi-year partnership that's going to help continue to grow the 500 Sprint Car Tour for years to come. So be sure to stay tuned to socials on Friday, October 17th to hear all about that announcement.
Yeah, or if you're going to be down at practice day at IRP, I'm sure you'll be able to see the announcement take place from somewhere as well. And this is cool. This is awesome. Listen, I was a 500 Sprint Car Tour fan back before it was branded the 500 Sprint Car Tour, and long before I became the host of this podcast, Ashton. Obviously, you worked for the 500 Sprint Car Tour through your contract with Dirt Vision. I am all about anything that helps keep this sanction go as a race fan, let alone whether or not, Jared and Brad employ us to do anything. That aside, I love this. I love this sanction body. I love the racing that it puts on. I'm excited for Friday.
Yeah, it's been super cool to see the 500 Sprint Car Tour grow over the few years and the amount of talent that we have in the field and the huge names of competitors that we have. I mean, Cody Swanson, Tyler Rohrig, now Michael Lewis joining us, and Ryan Newman racing with us. I mean, it's so cool to see it grow and to welcome in someone who's going to continue to help it grow for many more years.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for our program tonight. For Ashton Smith's broken iPhone, and I even said the wrong name for you, too, because your iPhone's broke. Ashton Smyth's broken iPhone. For Michael Lewis and Dameron Taylor, Brad Hayes, Jared Owen, everybody with the 500 Sprintcast. I'm Zach Heiser, and I don't even know. I think we got one more to put a bow on the season. So, and if not, maybe I just schedule this one more show to put a bow on the season after.
Yeah, we'll talk championship. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. How about that? We'll do championship show after Lucas Oil IRP Saturday, October 18th, Halloween Fest. Get down there and take it in. If you can't see it in person, you can watch every lap live on Dirt Vision. Until then, we'll talk to you again soon on the 500 Sprintcast.